Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. If you ever been to California, maybe you have visited the Winchester Mystery House with its 160 rooms, 13 bathrooms, 2,000 doors, and 47 staircases. And it even has staircases and doors that lead to absolutely nowhere. Actually, some versions of the story says that the house was built incrementally over years with no vision and no proper governance. I'm Jacques Clement. I'm a ServiceNow certified master architect, and I'm currently heading the ServiceNow architecture for a local bank in Luxembourg in Europe. And I'm here today to discuss with you how a technical governance can help you not building a Winchester house in your ServiceNow platform. So I will walk you through a possible practical implementation. This is my example, right? And you're going to need to build your own, but hopefully you can find inspiration on what we're going to be discussing here today. So first, maybe a bit of a why. We kind of discussed this already, right? We want to ensure coherence in what we do, and in our case, coherence in any technical designs. So when we do something on GRC, for instance, it doesn't get in the way of ITSM or vice versa, or someone receiving a notification from workplace service delivery, that notification will not be completely different compared to a one received from ITSM. So keyword here is coherence. But also we want to make decisions that support the vision. And every euro or every dollar that we spend should be spent on something that supports the agenda or the vision, if you have one, of your organization. And finally, I'd say you want to make sure the vendors work your way and not vice versa. If you're a platform architect for a customer and you're having multiple vendors, freelancers coming to your instance, doing things, and then walking away, and then you're responsible for maintaining that, at least you must be sure that things are done the way you want and not the way they think it should be done. But ultimately, you want to ensure the platform delivers maximum value all the time, regardless of what you do. Now, let's see a little bit how we can make that happen. And in terms of technical governance, the first thing you're going to have to do is to define a charter and your own charter. And today we'll be discussing, again, an example of what I've done with different organizations and what I think worked for me, but you're going to have to come up with your own charter. But what is a charter? Well, it's a simple thing. It's a document or just a PowerPoint that explains how you're going to operate your technical governance and what you will do with it. So yeah, let's start with the how. So what I'm going to be showing you is something I've done a couple of times that worked well. You might want to adjust or go your own way, but here's how we go. Because we drink our own champagne, developers, architects, product owners will go on Employee Center and find a catalog item to create an architecture board request. And depending on the request type, we are going to provide a template, and more on that in a minute. But that request can have three statuses. We kept that simple. It can be either draft, that means I'm still working on it. It's not ready for being discussed yet. It's work in progress, that means it's okay to take it to the board, or it's been closed and a decision has been made with the request. And we'll see by request what we mean in a minute. Okay, now a technical board meeting will meet every week at the same day, same time, and once a week, because we work with 2-week sprints, and we believe that having 2 times during a sprint to discuss architecture request is good enough. But we also have like an emergency technical board meeting if needed. Then we're going to be discussing every single item which has the status work in progress. And who's getting there? Well, architects, developers, possibly product owners, they can come on demand because they have a case to submit, or they can just come here and listen because they think they can learn something through those conversations. The important part is that this is backed up by technical guidelines. This is basically the book that tells this is how we work in our organization. It defines how we do ATFs, how we do integrations, how we develop our coding patterns, our coding guidelines, how we build notifications, pretty much everything. And that is going to evolve as we grow, and with the conversations being held at on the technical board meeting, we are going to improve that document. It's really a living document. But the important thing is we document live the discussions. So we capture the content of discussions directly onto the architecture board request. So that becomes the living documentation or the living repository of the architecture decisions that we made. And by decision, we can have a good to go. Typically, we ask people to present multiple options if possible, and we selected one and we're good to go. Or, yeah, we're good to go, but we are going to require a couple of adjustments, or we cannot make a decision. We need more data. Please come back next week, and then the request stays in work in progress. Or the solution that was proposed or the request that was made is not what we want to do with the platform, and we're just gonna not accept it. So now that we have some sort of how an operating model, let's see what we put in it. And again, that's my list. You might want to do your own. First, every new major capability or every new module or significant plugins, we want to have a solution architecture document that we'll be discussing. What are the channels? How do we originate the data? What is the data model? What are the personas? That will be one of the 6 items that needs to be taken to the board. The second is a data model change. You would be surprised by the kind of conversation we can have just by pulling the string on someone asking a new field. It's absolutely insane how deep we can go on what the business needs when we think a new field is the solution to everything. Third, obviously, integrations. What do we integrate with? How do we integrate? Do we pull? Do we push? This is something we want to discuss and make sure it is in accordance with our technical guidelines. Mass data manipulation. This is based on our experience when it gets to updating, deleting, the likes of thousands or millions of records. We want to have a quick conversation about how this is going to be done and why we're doing it. Script includes fun story. I joined a customer once where they had 4 or 5 CMDB utils with an S, with underscore, with not underscore. Basically, every vendor came with a CMDB util, whereas we could have actually factored that into one script include and basically making it available and very good for everyone. And finally, a new plugin is another reason why we might ask people to come to the board, especially if that incurs additional custom tables. And we want to make sure that we're not doing anything stupid with licensing, of course. So I talked about templates before. So let's have a look at how it could look, for instance, for a data model change. That's one example. So we can guide people on how they're going to request or how they're going to engage with the board, so we can have a very good conversation. So let's say I want a new field. We're trying to see things from 3 angles. The first one is business. Why do we do this? And by the way, the business needs a new flag is not a proper business justification. Get back to the business and ask for more. If we have a new field, how are we going to source it? I don't know how many new fields I've seen that basically have 0 value or no interesting value. And then, related to that, what is the data quality rule, or what are the data quality rules that we want for that new field? Then the usual technical, or maybe sometimes not so usual technical attributes. The column name, is it mandatory, read-only indexed, and something that we keep forgetting very often, should that field be audited or not? At least we're asking the question. And then depending on the field type, what are the choice values, if it's a reference, what kind of reference qualifier we think we should be having. All of that is a pretext to having a good conversation and learning. And finally, very often overlooked, the user experience. What field label do we want? Very often we forget about the hint. So what hint are we going to have? And what is important is that we force people to think about a hint. And yet, in what lists, forms, workspaces are we going to see that fields? And does it encourage change in some of the layouts? This is one example. You might come up with your own ideas. And for each and every of those 6 reasons why we should come to the board that we've seen before, typically you might want to have a template like that. Not because we want to be too prescriptive, because this is going to help driving or having the right conversation. Now, the technical governance board is one thing, but we probably need to see things from a greater perspective and see the big picture. So let's say we have a technical board and that's your first step. What would be very interesting is to have some sort of demand board and in conjunction with the technical board work like this. The demand board basically receives all the requests from the business, bug fix, new projects, new program, new something. And sometimes that board will consult with the technical board to get an estimate on an effort, on a complexity, and sometimes just, is it feasible? Is that a reasonable request from the business? And we're going to come back to them with a solution. With that solution, the main board can go into the strategic board and request budget or money. But more importantly, in my introduction, I said, why do we need a technical governance board? Because we also want to do things that support the vision. And that vision should come from a strategic board to the demand board and relate to the technical board. Now you might think, oh gosh, this is like really for very mature organizations. We're not there yet. But you can start just with this. Don't boil the ocean, If you can start with a technical board right now, you're going to get a lot of benefits right away. And then you can move or help moving into making it bigger and moving towards that ideal bigger picture. Now, based on my experience before we close off, what we've seen are a couple of unexpected benefits, and there's one lesson learned that I would like to share with you. First, it's an opportunity to learn in a safe place. Even if you don't present cases, you can join the weekly meetings and just learn by listening to others. And it should be a place where you can ask questions and where everyone can learn. Second, as maybe a platform owner, as a platform architect, you can hear about what's going on around the platform. If you have like 6 or 7 different ServiceNow modules, it's super hard to keep to be on track with everything. This is a place through the request where you're going to learn about things you didn't even know. And third, unexpected benefits, you can use that to deliver messages. If you think the quality is so-so, or you've seen things that you don't like, this isn't a place where you can deliver messages that you think are important for your platform. The one important lesson is don't turn the board into a control mechanism with a top-down approval syndrome. I'm the chief architect, I'm saying yes or no to everything, and now people are freaking out. They're scared to come to the board and defend their case. You should be challenging in a trustable manner, and you should be challenged as well if you're the platform architect. And it has to be a place where the best ideas win at the end, not a place where people are scared to go. So before we completely finish this, I would like you to take away 3 things. Like I said, you can start now. Don't make it too difficult. Start and progress. Maybe schedule your first technical governance meeting next week and discuss how your charter could look like with your community. Which is my second point. Define your charter. Make sure everyone understands how we engage with the board and what we expect from people and how the decision-making process will happen. And again, make it safe. Make sure it's a nice place to go, that people join just because they're learning new things if they don't have any case to present. But make sure it's actually quite cool, so make it safe for everyone to attend. And I'd say, really, if you do this, and maybe if you do this, you might end up with this very lovely modern house as opposed to the creepy Winchester house. Thank you for listening and good luck with your technical governance journey. Bye-bye.